Now, needle turn applique is great when you want like a nice, clean edge, but sometimes you feel a little bit rough and ready, and you like the raw edge applique look. I find it to be more organic, and it's a little more painterly, if I can use the word, right? This gives you a really sharp delineation between your applique fabric and your foundation fabric, whereas this tends to blend in just a little bit more. This will cast a shadow, right? Needle turn applique will cast a shadow because you have a bit of a ridge here. This, the fabrics will lie closer together, so you don't have that delineation. Now, raw edge applique, still helpful to use your little applique needles, pins. And the number one stitch here that I'd recommend is the whip stitch. Can't use the ladder stitch because there's nothing to tuck into, right? There's nothing to run your needle along on the inside. There's no channel there. And a running stitch like this, unless you make it really deep into the fabric, like a 1/4 inch or so, it's just going to eventually fray out over time, okay? So the whip stitch is the one that you want to use here. You can also use one called a blanket stitch, but I can show you that another time. Okay, so I'm going to take a pretty good bite down into my applique fabric here. It's about a seam allowance worth. You can decide how close to make it. You can of course decide what color thread you want to use. I'm using here a darker thread on a lighter fabric just so you can see it better, but you might decide a subtle color palette is more what you're going for. Okay, so that's the whip stitch on raw edge applique. You'll notice these stitches here with raw edge applique have to be much bigger than the whip stitches we did with needle turn applique, right? Because this is a nice strong edge. This is an exposed edge, it's weaker, so we got to go further into the fabric to really anchor it down to our piece.